Good morning, everybody. My name's Peta. I'm joined today by Tania, Tori, and Yolanda. We are Team 2 from the Department of the Prime Minister and Cabinet. So in today's social media era, the ease of access and the speed of information diffusion makes the regulation of climate change misinformation a challenging task for policymakers. There's a risk that misinformation can extend to impact community support, which can in turn undermine clean energy projects and potentially derail Australia's transition to clean energy. It's therefore important for us as policymakers to understand what drives the spread of information in order to prevent and challenge it effectively. When looking at this issue through the lens of Australia's transition to clean energy, we've identified 3 key drivers of misinformation. Firstly, individuals' confirmation bias, the ease of accepting information that accords with your views. Secondly, limited cognitive reasoning ability, the ability to engage with information at a critical level. And thirdly, today's fragmented media environment that's resulted in an abundance of low-quality information and general mistrust. So how will our nudges address these drivers? They will equip individuals with the skills they need to identify misinformation. They will utilise local governments as a trusted messenger of accurate information, and they will encourage informed and respectful community dialogue. We propose a 2-phased approach that is first preemptive and second reactive. Given the ever-changing narrative of misinformation, preemptive measures are not always entirely effective. Hence, in some circumstances, a more direct local-level nudge is also required. Our nudges are designed to coincide with the key touch points of the policy process in order to maximise their effectiveness.
Okay, so our first nudge is technique-based pre-bunking, and it's a preemptive nudge. We're going to roll this out in the consultation phase of policymaking, and the idea is that it would occur via social media because we know that's where misinformation spreads very highly. So it would look something like this nice mock-up that Peter's made for our slides. The intention of technique-based pre-bunking is that it equips individuals to be able to identify misinformation and, most importantly, for our objective, to reduce the suboptimal behaviour of spreading it. So our first nudge in phase 1 addresses 3 primary goals. First, we really wanted to encourage dialogue because you want social license to operate and implement energy infrastructure through genuine co-design. That was really important to us. Second, we aim to build trust and the perception of procedural fairness, which we know are 2 very powerful nudges. And this is the reason why we're focusing on technique-based pre-bunking rather than issues-based pre-bunking to maintain this dialogue. And finally, our nudge is preemptive and it's timely. Because we're implementing this at the consultation phase of policymaking, this is before viewpoints have solidified on a topic. And really, it's before we even know what misinformation narratives are going to occur. So simply put, our first phase nudge is apolitical, scalable, and highly ethical.
So evidence shows that pre-bunking interventions can be highly effective. However, we don't know whether this is going to generalise to the clean energy landscape, and so it's important to evaluate our strategy's effectiveness. So ideally, we would conduct an RCT to understand the causal impact of our pre-bunking intervention. And one way to do this is to use a survey platform to recruit a random sample of 5,000 people, and then randomise those people to either view the intervention or not view. And then participants would be tested to see if they would share certain information, and we would use this as a metric for their susceptibility to misinformation. We note that conducting an RCT is sometimes logistically challenging and potentially expensive, so a possible alternative, although not as rigorous, is to run focus groups with local governments, community leaders and members of the public to collect qualitative data, or to use mass surveying. The intended outcome here is to refine and improve our techniques-based and pre-bunking strategy, and also to enable the government to learn whether the program is effective and essentially good value for money.
Phase 2 is implemented if the pre-bunking digital literacy campaign is unable to prevent community anxiety and susceptibility to disinformation. When considering a reactive approach, we wanted to build a response that continued to foster community dialogue like in phase 1. We thought of the Australian Electoral Commission's Disinformation Register. What is missing is an opportunity for dialogue. Once you're told something is misinformation, there is no nudge to actually change your mind. We also wanted to avoid the backfire effect. When one group of people leave a platform due to perceived censorship, such as Facebook, to another platform, such as Rumble, to continue spreading misinformation if they feel their ability to speak is impeded. We thought of a digital town hall, an uncensored discussion platform with points of truth made in collaboration with local government areas, advertised via a social media campaign. This differs to traditional social media platforms as it silos dialogue in a way that prevents the spread of misinformation across different communities. It uses several nudges. First, it harnesses similarity bias by working with local governments. Studies show that local governments are significantly trusted more than the federal government. We recognise that one community leader cannot have responsibility for monitoring and providing information on the platform. This could be paired with AI and human admins to debunk information flows on the platform. Encouragement to use the platform is grounded in social proofing and community values. It also follows the EAST framework, as it's easy to use and access and attractive and advertised via social media. The platform appeals to procedural fairness and the perception of fairness outcomes. This comes back to our intention to encourage community dialogue throughout phases 1 and 2.
So to wrap up, I'm just going to speak to some of the implementation and feasibility aspects of our program. So one of the key strengths of our strategy relates to the fact that we've developed it with the policymaking process in mind. So when done well, policymaking is highly consultative and works with the intention of co-design. And we've created our proposal with this in mind. We also think the two-tiered approach complements the consultation and rollout stages of clean energy infrastructure projects. Secondly, it's scalable. So for our phase 2 digital town hall, you would have a base template for a website, and we can kind of tap into existing digital infrastructure owned by local governments. Thirdly, it's low cost. Sponsored posts on social media are relatively cheap to roll out at scale, and adopting a two-tiered approach ensures that higher cost interventions, like our second phase, are only implemented when necessary. So overall, this proposal outlines a comprehensive and feasible approach that combines both preemptive and more direct local level nudging to prevent and challenge misinformation. Our nudges aim to gain social license through the encouragement of community dialogue rather than the suppression of it. However, we recognise that nudging is only part of the solution, and we need shifts in the broader policy landscape to stop misinformation. Thank you.